Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Kathleen Osborne, and I'm honored to be your worship associate again today. I'm joined by Reverend Sian Wiltshire, our minister. Beth Syerson, who is our director of music ministries, is currently out today, but we have some lovely members of our wonderful choir who are going to be joining us today for some tunes later on. I'm very excited. And Karen Magoon Pearson, our Director of Religious Education for Children and Youth, are all delighted in welcoming you this morning. We would also like to recognize the many volunteers that have helped put this service together today. We couldn't do it without you. We respectfully recognize that our church property rests on Hachiman and Tongva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together, not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships. And we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our folks in person, we invite you to silence your cell phones. And for our folks online, we invite you to say hello in the chat. I would like to extend a special welcome to our visitors. If you're seeking a spiritual home or a Sunday to spend the time, we hope that you will find it here. Later in the service, we'll have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. Let our worship begin with the lighting of our chalice as we say our unison affirmation. Love, the spirit of this church, and service to the law. To dwell together in peace, seek truth and love, and help one another. For this we affirm together.
Spirit and join us in singing our opening song, Keepers of the Earth.
We are blessed by every river. Every river makes us whole with its riches and its beauty. Every river feeds our soul, and we are called as keepers of the earth. We are called to speak its sacred words for our children and our children's children. We are called as keepers of the earth. We are blessed by every mountain. Every mountain makes us whole with its riches and its beauty. Every mountain feeds our soul, and we are called as keepers of the earth. We are called to speak its sacred words for our children and our children's children. We are called as keepers
Good morning, roomers and our wonderful Zoomers online. I'd like you to join me this morning in a call and response, and your response is, "We are Earth." I'll begin. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are Earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life, who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them, listen to them. They are alive poems. We are Earth. Remember the wind, remember her voice. She knows the origin of this universe. Remember, you are all people and all people are you. Remember, you are this universe and this universe is you. Remember, all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember, language comes from this. Remember, the dance language is that life is. Remember. So our Time for All Ages story this morning comes from one of my favorite books of all times, which is called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Kimmerer. And she relates this story. It comes from the Great Lakes region of this country. She wrote this story. She said, "She fell like a maple seed, pirouetting on an autumn breeze, a column of light streamed from a hole in the sky world, marking her path where only darkness had been before. It took her a long time to fall. In fear, or maybe hope, she clutched a bundle tightly in her hand. Hurtling downward, she saw only dark water below, but in that emptiness, there were many eyes gazing up at the sudden shaft of light. They saw there a small object, a mere dust mote in the beam. As it grew closer, they could see that it was a woman, arms outstretched, long hair billowing behind as she spiraled toward them. The geese nodded at one another and rose together from the water in a wave of goose music. She felt the beat of their wings as they flew beneath to break her fall. Far from the only home she'd ever known, she caught her breath at the warm embrace of soft feathers as they gently carried her downward. The geese could not hold the woman above the water for much longer, so they called a council to decide what to do. Resting on their wings, she saw them all gather, loons and otters, swans, beavers, fish of all kinds. A great turtle floated in their midst and offered her back for her to rest upon, and gratefully she stepped from the goose wings onto the dome of his shell. The others understood that she needed land for her home and discussed how they might better serve her need. The deep divers among them had heard of mud at the bottom of the water and agreed to find some. And one by one, the animals offered to help: loon, otter, beaver, sturgeon. But the depth, the darkness, and the pressures were too great. They returned, gasping for air and their heads ringing. Soon, only little Muskrat was left, the weakest diver of all. He volunteered to go while others looked on doubtfully. He was gone a very long time. They waited and waited for him to return, fearing the worst, and before long a stream of bubbles rose along with the muskrat, and in his paw was a small handful of mud. Turtle said, "Here, put it on my back and I will hold it." And Skywind bent and spread the mud on her hands across the shell of the turtle. Moved by the extraordinary gifts of these animals, she sang in thanksgiving and then began to dance, her feet caressing the earth. The land grew and grew as she danced her thanks from the dab of mud on Turtle's back until the whole earth was made, not by Sky Woman alone, but from the alchemy of all the animals' gifts coupled with her deep gratitude. Together they formed what we know today as Turtle Island, our home. That's what they call the earth. Like any good guest, Skywin had not come empty-handed. The bundle was still clutched in her hand. When she toppled from the hole in the sky world, she had reached out to grab onto the tree of life that grew there. In her grasp were branches, fruits, and seeds of all kinds of plants. These she scattered onto the new ground and carefully tended each one until the world turned from brown to green. And animals from all over came to live with Sky Woman, and together the world flourished. Thus is the origin story from the Great Lakes region. I'd like to invite Karen Magoon Pearson, our Director of Religious Education, up here to light the children's chalice. And when she does so, we will then sing our children out to the religious education classes.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go, as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
So to continue on from that wonderful book, Braiding Sweetgrass, this is an excerpt from the book. If you didn't know, Robin Kimmerer is a professor of botany as well. So she wrote this. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:35 a.m., I am usually in a lecture hall at the university expounding about botany and ecology, trying in short to explain to my students how Sky Woman's gardens, known by some as global ecosystems, function. One otherwise unremarkable morning, I gave the students in my general ecology class a survey. They were asked to rate their understanding of the negative interactions between humans and the environment. Nearly every one of the 200 students said confidently that humans and nature are a bad mix. These were third-year students who had selected a career in environmental protection, so the response was, in a way, not very surprising. They were well schooled in the mechanics of climate change, toxins in the land and water, and the crisis of habitat loss. Later in the survey, however, they were asked to rate their knowledge of positive interactions between people and land. The median response was none. I was stunned. How is it possible that in 20 years of education, they cannot think of any beneficial relationship between people and the environment? Perhaps the negative examples they see every day of brownfields, factory farms, suburban sprawl truncated their ability to see some good between humans and the earth. As the land becomes impoverished, so too does the scope of their vision. When we talked about this after class, I realized that they could not even imagine what beneficial relations between their species and others might look like. And how can we begin to move toward ecological and cultural sustainability if we cannot even imagine what the path feels like? We can't imagine the generosity of geese. These students were not raised on the story of Sky Woman. On one side of the world were people whose relationship with the living world was shaped by Sky Woman, who created a garden for the well-being of all. On the other side was a woman with a garden and a tree, but for tasting its fruit, she was banished from the garden and the gates clanged shut behind her. That mother of men was made to wander in the wilderness and earn her bread by the sweat of her brow, not by filling her mouth with the sweet, juicy fruits that bend the branches low. In order to eat, she was instructed to subdue the wilderness into which she was cast. Same species, same earth, different stories. Like creation stories everywhere, cosmologies are a source of identity and orientation to the world. They tell us who we are. We are inevitably shaped by them, no matter how distant they may be from our consciousness. One story leads to the generous embrace of the living world, the other to banishment. One woman is our ancestral gardener, co-creator of the good green world that would be the home of her descendants. The other was an exile, just passing through an alien world on a rough road to a real home in heaven. And then they met. the offspring of Sky Woman and the children of Eve. And the land around us bears the scars of that meeting, the echoes of our stories. I want to invite you into just a time of quiet meditation, a spirit of meditation, if you like. Take some deep breaths. You might consider her words and how have these creation stories influenced us. When you're ready, please join in singing.
Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I hear your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I hear your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. One more time. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I hear your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears.
So from our reading, Robin Kimmerer said, cosmologies are a source of identity and orientation to the world. They tell us who we are. We are inevitably shaped by them, no matter how distant they may be from our consciousness. I read that and was kind of like, oh, dang. So, I didn't grow up Christian, but even so, I know that I've been influenced by this idea that the earth is there for our benefit, for that of human beings, right? That we have to subdue it rather than nurture it. But I was lucky enough, I grew up with an atheist father who just loved being in the outdoors. My mom was kind of, she could, either way. But my dad, he everything he did, he wanted to be in the outdoors. He bought a cabin on the side of a mountain. We grew up there partially, and we had pets, we had cats and dogs, we had everything. So we kind of lived a lot pretty close to nature that way. Now I want to contrast, I tell you that because I really love that, but also because I want to contrast that with Beth, who isn't here today. She's our music director. She told me I could tell you the story because we were talking about this, and she grew up in a very different household. If you know Beth, she grew up in a very conservative Christian household, and she said, I was never allowed to praise or admire the earth. You couldn't say what a beautiful sunset. You couldn't, love your animals, like none of those things, because all praise goes to God. All praise goes to God. And she had to learn, in a way, how to love this earth. She married a woman, who has horses and dogs and chickens, and she's definitely grown into that. I don't think it's all that hard to learn to love this earth. One of the things that was really interesting as I was doing research about sort of some of the ways in which people view this idea that we have to subdue the earth. There's this guy here in California, and he said, let me see if I forgot. No, that's not it. Okay. So he said, his name is John MacArthur. He runs a mega church here in California. And he said this: God intended us to use this planet, to fill this planet for the benefit of man. Never was it intended to be a permanent planet. It is a disposable planet. Christians ought to know that. Like, a disposable planet. What the heck? And and the thing is, what they will quote from is, of course, Genesis, right? Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. So God created mankind in his own image, and so the image of God, he created them, male and female, he created them. We won't go into how that's caused problems, but God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and over every living creature that moves on the ground. I just want to point out that nowhere does it say actually that it's disposable. I'm just saying, okay? It doesn't say you can throw it out. Now, I do want to note something about origin stories, okay? They often do reflect the world in which they were created. The world of Sky Woman was definitely one of plenty in the Great Lakes regions. There were fish in the Great Lakes. There were animals for furs and meat. There were berries and nuts and corn to grow and all those sorts of things. It was a pretty bountiful land. But when you think about the land of Israel, not so much. Rainfall is very erratic, right? It's dry. There's very sandy soil, all those sorts of things. So I just want to help us understand there's a reason maybe why this happened. It's not so surprising that a cosmology was created about battling the earth. And nonetheless, this cosmology has shaped us, I believe, in terrible ways. And I don't want you to think that all Christians or even Jews believe in a disposable earth. That's not true at all. There are lots of ways that people interpret this passage in Genesis, one of which is simply that God always provides. That's one that I grew up with. I remember hearing about, well, God always provides, the earth will provide, like it'll just be around forever, it won't ever run out, right? It'll provide. More liberal Christians tend to rewrite some of the saying of Genesis by saying that we are keepers of the earth, right? Like what we sang this morning, right? We're keepers of this earth. It's our responsibility to take care of creation, that we do have this power. But as I said last week, with great power comes great responsibility, right? And it does, though, even if you think of us as keepers of the earth, it does sort of create the sense of imbalance of power, right? That we are the ones in charge. We are the ones who keep the earth. One of the things that our more fundamentalist brothers and sisters fail to recognize when they think about the Bible and the environment is actually the reality that Jesus and his fellow Jews were way more like our indigenous brothers and sisters in their worldview. They were very close to earth. They farmed it, right? They drew sustenance from it. Right? So Jesus, because there really wasn't a problem with climate change in Jesus's day, has very little to say on the whole matter. And you'll note that almost nobody ever quotes Jesus directly because there's nothing really to say. But one of the things he does is he constantly uses parables that invoke the natural world, as does actually the Hebrew scriptures as well. He doesn't see himself or his people as separate from the earth, but part of it. So he points to birds in the sky, right? The olive trees, the water, the food, as metaphors for a point that he wants to make. Remember, like the weeds among the wheat, the mustard seed, the leaven, the lost sheep, the pearl of great price, the fig tree, the sower, the growing seed. All of these parables draw upon the earth because that's what he knows. That's what he feels connected to. So I kind of wanted to ask you this morning the same question that Robin asked her students, which is basically, what was your relationship, if any, to the earth growing up? And what is it now? What has changed? So I'd like it if you would, to maybe turn to someone maybe behind you or in front of you, somebody maybe you don't necessarily know, and answer this. And if you're on Zoom, I invite you to write it in the chat. What was your relationship to the earth growing up? And has it changed at all? And it's a tough one. We don't always think about this, right? I invite you to go ahead.
Not good, I think. It's hard.
No.
I didn't really have a lot of opinions about it as a kid. I don't know. I just kind of took it as it was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, it's raining. I have my Disney Princess umbrella.
You know, I didn't really relate to my dad and his closeness to the universe until I was in my 20s. As a teenager, I just didn't, it was sort of like, okay, dad, whatever, you know. It's like it's hot and there are bugs, and I don't really, you know.
I didn't really start on over. When I was younger, I was still scared of spiders, but like I have grown more like I appreciate them for the job they do. I don't want to touch them. Like I like very much of I can't speak for the crawling, but also I respect them. They're doing a lot of good work that I cannot do.
Right? Absolutely.
Especially now that I like really love birds so much. I'm like learning about the species and just like ways to take care of them.
Yeah, fair enough. I always hate cutting off conversations as they starting there, but I will, how many people had the same reaction that Sarah Hunter online, hi Sarah, did, which was, I don't think I had one. Anybody else? Yeah. Let's see here. Marilyn F says, as a child, I love playing in the woods in Pennsylvania. As an adult, I love hiking in California woods. It's so calming and meditative. Linda C said, lots of travel, interaction with nature, enthusiastic parents about the natural world. That's cool. Valerie A says, I spent a lot of time camping, hiking, and at the beach, so I love nature. I was also taught to conserve water and energy from a young age. Yeah, do you ever get that from my dad always used to say, oh, put on a jacket whenever we said it was cold. Do you ever get that? Yeah. Yeah, that was how we conserved energy back then. Yeah. Ralph says, he said, none, I didn't have a relationship since I grew up in a congested part of the city. Yeah. Matthew P says, I grew up on a farm in Mississippi, then a rural area in Utah. My relationship with the earth was that we could enjoy it and eat of its bounties, especially if we worked. We loved our animals and loved eating fruits, fresh fruits and vegetables. Very cool. My mother used to like to garden too. Let's see, Barbara says, I don't think I had one growing up, but from my early 20s to 50s, I hiked a lot and camped sometimes. I don't do those things anymore though. Peggy P says, every summer we went camping to visit my grandfather's farm. I took my sons camping from infancy and still hike as often as possible. Birdie says, we had a victory garden and I was given a small plot of my own, thus learning the miracle of seeds and growing into plants and food. That's cool. Jim C says, I was very close to earth growing up and spent a lot of time with all of it. And Jacques says, he's in the Victoria room. He says, my dad made me water the garden, pull weeds, pick beans, and go to the forest to pick mushrooms. The earth was meant for food production. That's interesting that a lot of people had really positive interactions with the earth. Well, thank you for sharing all that. I think it's important to remember our relationship with the earth. You know, as Unitarian Universalists, this is our 7th principle, to affirm and promote the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. But I always wanted to ask, like, what actually does that mean? And how do we live that out? We've done sermons here about actually how to conserve different things and how to recycle, all those sorts of things. But I want you to think about this. That question that she asked her students, can you think of any positive interactions between humans and the earth? Are we just plain destructive? So that's our next question that I'd like you to share with your neighbor or share it in the chat, Zoomers. What examples are there of people living in harmony or helping the earth? Because I think it's important to see those as well. Have at it. So I'm really glad to see that people came up with some of these ideas, because that's really cool. So we've got, let's see here. Valerie A says butterfly gardens. That's kind of cool. Let's see, Peggy P says our modern forestry practices are trying to undo mistakes of the past. That's very true. Like Bertie says, planting trees and organic farms. Marilyn says we celebrate Earth Day by cleaning trash from the beaches and the Back Bay, making the environment healthier for humans and sea creatures. Right, and I know there's a huge movement, particularly among youth, to clean up the waterways. They posted on Instagram. I think it's like Clean Earth or something, hashtag Clean Earth. Let's see. Oh, Valerie also mentioned, she says, dogs probably co-evolved with humans. They're pretty cool. Well, you know how well I feel about dogs. So let's see here. Linda C says one of our granddaughters and her husband grow almost all their food. He's a professor of conservation, very, very aware and great models. Anna says we always had gardens. And Ralph says I'm a member, a sustaining member of the Sequoia Society. I didn't even know what that was. Let's see here. Matthew says that he and Alex got married in a garden area of Balboa Park last year because we wanted to be in beautiful area of nature. The way I see it, the way that parks are kept up allows people to live in cities, but also enjoy the wonders of nature. This is true. And Sarah H says, Governor Newsom has funded beavers for water restoration. I did not know that. Well, there you go. So yeah, so there are things, I mean, just reduce, reuse, recycle, right? Is some of the ways that we can help. There's lots of stuff out there. You've seen carbon neutral, right? Like you can pay, a little bit extra for your plane ticket to become carbon neutral. There's all this sustainability. You can buy sustainable socks. Did you know? I think people are kind of like, they're getting on the sustainable bandwagon, but still that shows that people want to change. They want to make things sustainable, which I think is awesome. I see more and more gardens around that have water sustainable plantings, right? We see that a lot. Wildlife preserves, national parks. Somebody mentioned organic farming, reforestation, and even environmental regulations. Remember when we used to be able to use hairspray? The CFCs can't do that anymore, right? You know, and interestingly enough, Israel has actually become the breadbasket of the Middle East, in part because they use really cutting edge technology to take wastewater and they use dripping water to water their plants, which is kind of amazing, actually. So, all right, I just want to point out that we, like every animal, because we are animals and species of life on this earth, we have a right to be here. There's no thing that like, oh, humans should just leave the planet or anything like that. But we are different from every other species, right? We have a ton of power and we breed like rabbits, right? There's a lot of us. And it's going to be up to us whether we use that power to destroy or to create, right? Because here's the thing that we rarely really ever really sort of sit back and recognize, at least I didn't even just growing up, like to really think about it, realize that everything we have comes from this earth, right? Our bodies come from this earth. They were nourished by food that comes from this earth. Everything we are, everything we can ever be, every child we ever have or grandchild comes from this earth. Without the earth, we are literally nothing. Nothing. So however you think of the earth, whether you think we have dominion over it or we're its keepers or we're co-creators or interdependent with the earth, in some ways it kind of doesn't matter, because without it, without this mother, this earth that we have, there's a reason why she's called a mother, right? Without her, we are doomed. This is us. This earth is us. We are earth. Life just doesn't happen without it. Now that may seem like really obvious, but really, have you ever stopped to think about it? Like without the earth, we just don't exist. You know, if every person on this earth were to live my lifestyle, right, my moderately middle-class lifestyle, or even the lifestyle of a middle-class American, it would take 10 Earths of resources, right? 10 Earths to create that much stuff. So either some people have to remain poor and starving. Anybody agree with that one? I hope not. Or we have to change. We have to change our consumerist ways. You know, we think of ourselves as owning this earth. That's part of our origin story, this cosmology that says we rule over it, we subdue it, we own it. We talk about owning the land or working the land. But here's the thing, I really believe that the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. It gives us everything. It nurtures us. It gives us everything that we need. And right now, it's kind of had a big warning system going on out there right now. It's fighting back. That's what global warming is. It's a warning system. The hurricane increases, the wildfires, flooding are all because of the way we treat the earth as disposable. I think slowly, bit by bit, we're starting to become a little bit more humble. Starting to go, okay, I realize that maybe I belong to this earth, to this world, that we're part of it, interdependent with it, co-creators with it, and we need to act in a more humble manner in our treatment of our mother. So this week, as you're out there and you think back to Sunday in the sermon, if you can remember the sermon topic, okay, I'd like you to look around you and see if you can find things that you or others are doing to help the environment. Think about, okay, do I really need to order that thing from Amazon again? That's a tough one for me. That's the one I struggle with. And if you need any ideas about how to love this earth and how to take care of it, then come to our Environmental Film Festival on this Saturday, okay? There's a little plug right in there, all right? because we have just this one big, beautiful blue boat of a home. And let us sing. Please stand in body or spirit.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting a Stand Up for Kids. We support them for a long time, and as we need to nurture this earth, let us nurture our communities as well. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and this organization. You can mail a check, you can go through our website, use an app called Banco Mobile, or send a check. The choice is yours. All information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
All my relations come, every nation come, all my relations under the sun, we are one. We are praying, come. We are praying, come. We are the song and we are the drum. We are one. We are the river, come. We are the river, come. We are the boat, the paddle, the shore. We are the ancient ones. We are the ancient ones. In your breath and bones we sing on. We are one. We are the meadow come. We are the meadow come. We are the lark that sings, a new day has begun. We are the new day, run, run, run. We are the new day, run, run, run. We are the old and we are the young. We are one. Nini Wichoni sing, Nini Wichoni sing, Nini Wichoni water is life for everything. We are the water sing. We are the water sing. We are the water. We are where all life begins. We are the earth and sky. We are the thunder cries. We are the fire. We are the light in your eyes. We are standing strong, like a rock, like a stone, on this sacred ground we belong. We are home. Nini Wichoni sing, Nini Wichoni sing, Nini Wichoni water is light for everything. We are the water sing. We are the water sing. We are the water. We are where all life begins. All my relations come. Every nation come. All my relations under the sun. We are one.
Please join in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude.
Gather together, we gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
Now, of course, is that time when we honor the important events and people in your lives, and we're invited, whether you're a member, a friend, or a visitor, to participate in our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. So I'd like to invite Marilyn Giss up here. She's one of our pastoral care team members and our congregational nurse. She'll be assisting us. So perhaps you came here today holding something close to your heart, something from the last minutes, weeks, or hours that you have struck you at your core and you'd like to honor that. You are invited to do so. You can simply come forward to light a candle. And if you'd like to share your joy or sorrow, you can write it out on a slip of paper that maybe you saw when you first came in here, but the ushers also have them and can pass them out if you like. And then simply hand it to me when you come forward to light your candle. If you're a Zoomer, you're invited to write your joy or sorrow in the chat here, and then I'll read them out loud and Marilyn will light a candle for you. You can also simply light a candle at home too. So please come forward, and once the roomers are done lighting their candles, I'll read all of them out loud. So let's see, Lori Kluge lit a candle. She says, I met a 3-day-old baby this morning. Her name is Madison. Oh, won't that do it though? Make your day? Meet a 3-day-old baby. And Julie C says, bless her heart, she says, I'm grateful for the beautiful message and music from today's service. Thank you. Even when Beth isn't here, we try to strive for beautiful music. We have such an incredible, wonderful choir members who step in. And Shirley T says that she has a candle of joy. She says, thanks for a great week away in Santa Fe, New Mexico with her daughter, Wendy, and a 2-day tour of beautiful places. Welcome back, Shirley. And Sarah Jones, this actually came in last week. We didn't have Joys and Sorrows last week with the water ceremony. She said, Sarah Jones is our administrator. She said, join David and Yesenia Nunez. They were former sextons of this church, sort of the janitorial staff. She said, join them and their family at their home last night for Angelina's quinceañera. Angelina basically grew up in this church. Yeah, Sarah said she was just beautiful and the party was amazing. A personal highlight was doing the chicken dance with my grandson and real live chickens. So Kathleen M says, lit a candle of joy because Mark R and his sons had a successful trip to Alaska and returned with many pounds of salmon and a renewed understanding of each other. Isn't that lovely? And last week also, Jacques and Elizabeth Kilshore lit candles, first of relief, because Elizabeth's biopsy results came back, and much to her relief, it was aggressive precancerous cells. So recheck in 6 weeks. So we got our fingers crossed for Elizabeth. It's okay. She also wanted to light a candle of disbelief and joy because their eldest son, Joel, who is currently working in the nursery, he turned 20 years old last week. She says, where did the time go? So, wow. And Simone B, we also lit a candle for her. She is recovering well at home from a recent surgery. Craig P has a candle of sorrow. He said, for floodwaters in Mississippi, Pakistan, and LA County. But he also would like a candlelit of joy for the Wild and Scenic Film Festival this Saturday, 4th annual. All right. And Erin and Amelia N has lit a candle of sorrow. She had prayers of hope for their cousin Howard, who is recovering for treatment for cancer. We hope that goes well. And online we've got, let's see here. Linda C says, please light a candle of hope for her daughter, Valerie, and love for their new dog, Layla. If you don't remember, their little dog, Little Man, passed away, and they got a new one named Layla to give love to. And Barbara S says, on Tuesday, she starts 5 weeks of radiation therapy. Any good vibes you can send my way are welcome. Let's all do this to the vibe for Barbara. Good vibes. All right. Sarah H says, all of our children and grandchildren are coming to visit for Thanksgiving. Woohoo. It's gonna be a full house. Right on. Peggy P says, last month I celebrated my 70th birthday. I spent it in a week in Sequoia Kings Canyon. This weekend I spent hiking in our local San Gabriel Mountains. So grateful I can do this and share it. Absolutely. So, and happy birthday, 70th birthday. And Corey B says, thanks to Judith, Catherine, and others for a wonderful Saturday ice cream social event. Right on. Oh, I missed that. Sarah Jones also has a candle of joy for many birthdays in our family. She says, my grandchildren, Gabrielle and Jordan, turned 3 and 4 yesterday, and my daughter, Hannah, were turned 24 on Friday. And Carolina, I think this is from Justin. She said, or I think, it's Carolina. Okay, so Carolina says, yesterday was my dad's death date. She said, "It's been 12 years and I miss him so much. Please light a candle for him and our family." I'm sorry, Carolina. Anniversaries are hard. Times. And Matthew P. says he has a joy, got a visit from my best friend for the first time in over 5 years. She and her mother were in the area visiting from Orlando during the D23 Expo last weekend. It was great to see her. Awesome. Oh, take a deep breath. Let us hold in love all of these joys and celebrations and all the hurts and sadness, whether they were spoken or held silent in our hearts. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. And let all these moments remind us that we are not alone. Please join Marilyn in a spirit of prayer.
This is a prayer of gratitude for creation by Fiona Murdoch, Echo Congregation of Ireland. God of the universe, we thank you for your many good gifts, for the beauty of creation and its rich and varied fruits, for clean water and fresh air, for food and shelter, animals and plants. Forgive us for the times we have taken the earth's resources for granted and wasted what you have given us. Transform our hearts and minds so that we would learn to care and share, to touch the earth with gentleness and with love, respecting all living things. We pray for all those who suffer as a result of our waste, greed, and indifference. And we pray that the day would come when everyone has enough food and clean water. Help us to respect the rights of all people and all species, and help us to willingly share your gifts today and always. Amen.
Let us join together, let's extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice,
Not the light of truth, or the community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently, and yet when we gather together, whether we're in the room or on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat if you're a Zoomer, or if you are a roomer, to stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you're from. All right. Check the chat, make sure. Okay, I think we're good. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuc.org, and we'll help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we'll help you get connected. Thank you.
All right, whether you're a roomer or a Zoomer, we got a lot going on in this church for the next couple of months. So you pretty much have your weekends filled if you like. So this Saturday, we have our environmental film festival. Come on out for that, get the tickets. Yeah, boy, it's gonna be fun. There's 2 at 6 p.m., but you have to buy tickets ahead of time. So if you want to buy the tickets, just see Linda out at the table right out here, and we'll get that all set up for you. This is our 4th annual and we keep selling out. So, and then after that, we've got an upcoming class that I'm teaching on the historical Jesus. So you can sign up for that and have your Tuesday nights filled too, if you like, for 6 weeks. And then the weekend after that, we've got our flu shot clinic run by our absolutely wonderful congregational nurse, Marilyn, who also needs some help. So we have a drive-in clinic. So literally people drive up, they roll down their window, they get a shot. It's really kind of cool and everything. But we do need some volunteers to help out with that. So Marilyn, raise your hand. She was the lovely woman helping you light candles. Please see her if you can help out and volunteer. She does this every year. It's free. It's wonderful. It's a great thing we do for the community. We have lots of people coming by for that. And then the following weekend after that, we've got the all church weekend up at Camp de Benneville Pines up in the mountains. I don't know if there's any spots left there or not. I know they're kind of filling up pretty quickly, but you can also see the welcome table for that. Also, we've got our sermon discussion groups are going to be starting in October. We've got 4 different times. So if you've never been a part of a sermon discussion group, they're absolutely wonderful. It's a great way to get to know people. Basically, I write up an outline of what the sermon was and the different pieces that we had, so you can ruminate on them. People gather together. You have to sign up though. We meet online the following week and go over the sermon a little bit more in depth. So it's kind of like, you get to tell maybe more of your story about growing up, either honoring the earth or not, and how things have changed and all those sorts of things if we were to do that sermon, but we're not up to that yet. But we will, so sign them up. We've got signups outside for that. And so I think they're all on either Tuesdays or Thursdays in the afternoon or evening. And then of course we've got Save the Date, or it's our big fall auction in November. No excuses to get involved in the church. There is so much going on. And we of course have got our weekly stuff here too. And then on the Zoom, they're putting in the chat for if you want to sign up for sermon discussion groups, that's in there too. It's also in the blast. You all read your blast, right? So you can go back and look at the sermon discussion groups and sign up from there too. I know you do. All right. Anything else? Did I miss anything? I think we've got everything going on. We've got so many things going on. Let us sing our benediction.
Let us go out and all do our part. Let us go out, bring joy to each heart. Let us go out with indifference destroyed. Let us go out with joy. Let us go out and all do our part. Let us go out, bring joy to each heart. Let us go out with indifference destroyed. Let us go out with joy. Let us go out with joy. Let us go out with joy.
Remember, we are earth and this service is over. Let our service continue.